Welcome to the Training Wheels Foot Strength and Balance program. This is going to be a simple beginner program to help you move in multiple directions while working on your foot strength and balance in a good, safe environment. Go ahead and use some sort of balance point when you're starting out until you get really good and used to the movements. Or if you have any sort of visual impairment or extreme balance issues, make sure that you're having that balance point handy at all times. This can be a sturdy chair, or for me, I'm using a solid wooden dowel rod. Go ahead, kick off those shoes, and let's get started. This is our big toe stretch. Now, so we don't have to get too fancy. All we're going to do is pop into a nice long lunge position, leave that back heel off the ground, rely on our front leg, and make sure to get a good stretch in the big toe of that back foot. So I'm going to have my balance point out, step into a nice long lunge, leaving that back leg nice and long, and coming up onto the ball of my foot, exaggerating how much pressure is in that back big toe. Make sure you get a good, nice stretch here. If you want to exaggerate that stretch even more, you can take something to raise that toe up a little bit, like a 2x4 or a small book at home. Make sure it's nice and steady. Place that big toe up on that razor. Step forward slightly and still enjoy that stretch. Make sure you use your balance point in order to stay away from wobbling. Make sure you're nice and sturdy.
Be sure to keep your back foot straight in order to keep proper pressure on your big toe. Adjust your step length and foot pressure in order to make sure that you give yourself the stretch that you need.
Now on to our short foot activation. We're going to be standing nice and tall with our feet directly underneath our hips, and we're going to focus on exaggerating the inside arch of our foot. Now we don't just want to curl up our toes. Instead, I'm going to focus on the base of my big toe dragging towards my heel. In order to get used to that, you can actually do the bad thing and really cave your arch down. Try to get as much of that inside arch on the floor as possible. Feel that foot cave in, feel those knees cave in, feel how you're not even very active in the hips. And now let's again do the right thing. Drag the base of that big toe towards the heel. Really flex that arch as hard as possible. If you start getting a little crampy, probably means you're doing it right and that you need this a lot. Feel yourself root into the ground. We're going to hold this for 10 to 15 seconds.
Search for the tactile sensation of a lot of pressure in the base of your big toe, the base of your pinky toe, and your heel.
Now let's ramp up that short foot activation exercise and include a little bit of squatting. If you aren't comfortable with your balance or the depth of your squat, feel free to have a chair behind you to make sure we're nice and safe. That way, if we're failing, losing balance on anything, all you have to do is continue to sit down. So what we're gonna do is widen our feet into whatever your good squat stance is. I like to turn my toes out a little bit. I'm gonna flex into that short foot activation position. Make sure to hold that as hard as I can, and I'm keeping that the entire exercise. Now I'm going to slowly descend into a squat, keeping my core engaged, shoving my knees out, and allowing my hips to come down. So I'm sitting, I'm sitting, I'm sitting. 3, 2, 1. Not losing that arch. Firing back up. Make sure that as we get towards the bottom, you might be tempted to really lose that arch. Make sure we're keeping that turned on. So if you're starting to lose it, let's say the last 2 inches in the bottom, don't even mess with that. Just stop where you need to before you lose that short foot position and fire back up. Again, we're going 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 to the bottom of our squat, standing up nice and strong.
Feel free to play with different stances in order to find what's best for you. Just be sure to keep your abs nice and tight in order to protect your back, and don't let your knees cave in.
Now Now that foot is nice and activated in that short foot position, especially squatting, we're going to work our single leg balance. Make sure you're still rooting hard to the ground and use your balance point. The balance point is going to be important whether you think you have good balance or not, because no matter your level of vision or your level of balance prowess, you're still going to need a little bit to reassure your brain sometimes. So just make sure that's handy for safety. So I'm just going to be balancing on my left foot, using my balance point very lightly. I just want to baby my balance just a little bit to my brain. This is an okay environment. I'm just going to work on being able to stabilize myself, tapping down that right toe when necessary in order to balance me just a little bit. And then I'm going to switch to the right foot and switch. Again, helping just a little bit with my balance point, make sure I'm not wobbling everywhere, and helping with that big toe on my left foot, just as a little bit of a safety precaution. And once you get done with that, you're just going to be switching back and forth.
Try to keep track of any asymmetries between your right and left foot. Also, note in which directions you tend to lose your balance.
Now we're going to be balancing while moving our free leg in different directions in order to tax ourselves in multiple different directions. Remember, balance isn't just standing in one place, it's being able to move everything around that balance point and still be able to maintain that sense of balance and stability. So first what we're going to do is we're going to have our free foot going out the front and out the back. So I'm going to balance on my right foot and I'm going to kick my left foot out the front. Gently touch while leaning slightly back. Gently touch the front with that left foot. And then I'm going to hinge and send that left leg out the back. Gently touch, leaving most of my weight in my right foot. Again, I have my balance point as a little just in case. So front, push those hips forward, back, tap that left foot down gently, coming back through. I can feel my right foot really having to work to take care of me and my balance point to keep me nice and safe. A few reps of that and you're ready to move to moving laterally.
Be sure to let your hip move naturally on your stance side in order to allow it to better aid in all these directions as well.
Now what we're going to do is put your balance point out in front of you or wherever you feel comfortable. I'm going to use my left foot as my base this time, and I'm going to kick my right foot out to the right as far as possible while tilting myself to the left, gently tapping that right big toe, coming back, and then I'm going to cross my right foot in front of my body in order to gently touch. You're not going to be able to get nearly as far, and come back. Really rely on that left foot, not too much on the balance point, but keep it handy. Back and forth, out and in, and we're done.
Let your shoulders tilt the opposite direction that your foot is moving. On the cross step, be sure to search for a good stretch sensation on the outside of that stance hip.
Now we're going to be rotating open and closed in order to step out the back and out the front. Think of your hip as a pivot. I'm going to keep my right foot down, keeping strong in that short foot position, keep a nice strong arch. I'm going to put my balance point on the left side of me so I can turn my left foot out the back, almost like I'm trying to line up that big toe with my right foot directly behind me, coming back to center. Once I'm normal, comfortable standing, then I'm going to turn out the front. And I like to think about this is my left foot taking a tight turn around the front of my right foot, gently touching with that big toe and returning. Repeat this, keeping your balance point handy, rotating open and rotating closed out the front. Let your shoulders and hips go along for the ride with this movement. Remember that base foot needs to stay nice and strong the whole time.
Start with small ranges of motion, and as you become more stable, work up to larger and larger ranges while still under control. Now you've learned all the moves, here's how to put it all together. Start out with that big toe stretch for 1 to 2 sets of 30 seconds per side. After that, perform the short foot activation for 2 to 3 sets of 10 to 15 seconds. Move on to short foot squats, 2 to 3 sets of 5 to 10 reps. Make sure to descend for 5 seconds each time. Then perform single leg balance for 2 to 4 sets of high quality attempts per side. I'm leaving these purposely open-ended in order to make sure that you're able to do what you need. If you're just killing these, you can go ahead and move on. And if you need some extra time and extra sets, you get that as well. I trust you to know what a high quality set is and what to not count as a set. Wrap up with your multi-directional balance work. It is going to be 2 to 3 sets of 5 to 10 repetitions of each variant each side. Feel free to perform all your sets of the forward backward, then onto the side to side, then onto the rotating, or you could also go forward backward, side to side, rotating, 1 set each, and then go back through that again and treat it like a circuit. My advice is to perform this routine 3 to 5 times a week until you are good and ready to move on to our One Step Ahead program. Now, when to progress? I advise working on this program until you're able to safely and confidently perform all of the movements and can also do a single leg balance for at least 20 seconds comfortably on each foot. Once you're ready to move on, go ahead and click the One Step Ahead program link down in the description. Also check the description for a link to our website, which will lead you to a lot more high quality fitness information.